Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey of My Mother's Son podcast. Today, I'm joined with fellow full-time nomads, Joe and Amy Rogan, also known as the Rolling Rogans. Guys, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Really excited about this conversation. We got a lot in common. Just by chance, kind of came across you guys as I'm going into my next book project, looking to do some crowdfunding through a platform that you guys are actually on. And as I was doing my research, came across you guys and loved the story and wanted to reach out and talk to you. So tell me a little bit about, who are the Rolling Rogans?
I haven't gotten a complete elevator pitch yet, but you got to get the book one to find out the history of us. No,
that's the easiest way to tell the story. But go ahead, Amy.
So the reason we're called the Rolling Rogans is because we've had a lot of different challenges, health challenges, business, life, as everybody does. But we've developed a pretty positive sense of curiosity whenever we go into situations, and just rolling with whatever life throws at us and seeing where it's going to take us. And now that we're nomads, we're on wheels and we can go on those adventures even easier now. So we've been together for about 26 years, married almost 22. And I was really sick at the first part of our marriage, and Joe stuck with me through all of it. And that's pretty much what our book is about. But so we just roll through whatever life challenges happen.
Very
and
cool.
The good stuff too.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. And I love that. I love, how the rolling kind of has, a double connotation there, where you're literally rolling down the road like we are, but then also rolling with the punches that, that life deals us. Joe, you're about to say something. I interrupted you. Sorry, but go ahead.
Oh, I mean, that was the thing, was like, there's a lot of challenges that you go through, and, for us, there's things that are failures also, where people feel like they're failing, but we fail forward. It's not like, you're getting a setback and things aren't working out. It's just solving it and figuring out what's happening at that state, and not so much react to it, but how to respond to it and just keep moving, roll with the punches. That's how we go. And we've had a lot of challenges in our life, trials, tribulations, and everything.
And I wouldn't change a thing. It's definitely been an adventure. I'm glad we learned a lot of this early, because we got married in our early 20s. And so we didn't goof off in our 20s or, trying to figure out things. We kind of got pushed into adulthood right away.
Yeah, work-life balance. And, then the curveball happens where her health comes spiraling down. And
so now we're in our 40s and we're realizing what life is really about and being able to enjoy it as much as we can. So
I don't feel 40.
I feel like I'm in my 20s.
That's great, man. That's how you stay living a good, healthy life. I love what you said about you wouldn't change a thing. So I was actually just on a guest on a podcast the other day, and he asked me that question, and he said, would there be anything that you would change? And I said, no, there wouldn't. And he said I was actually the first one of his guests who ever gave him that answer, which really kind of surprised me, because, as you look back and connect the dots, even though we all had rough times and difficult times, they all came really at the perfect time of our lives. And I think what you said, Joe, is that, you're failing forward, and so I feel sad that there's so few of us who can look back and reflect and say, I wouldn't change a thing. Bad stuff happened, but you know what? There's a whole lot of good stuff that happened in between there as well. So I love the fact that you guys have that same outlook. And I want to talk about the book, but not quite yet. First of all, I want to learn a little bit more about your story. So again, you guys are full-time nomads like Sandy and I. What prompted you to make that decision? Whose idea was it first? And how much selling did it take the other person to buy in?
I'm the crazy one. We know that for sure. And she's the one that has to have everything set up and goal and planned and just like has to have everything. So there's a metaphor for us. It's like, you know, I jump without the parachute and she's sewing it on the way down. So over time, she's starting to, we're balancing and shifting together because like, I understand that I need her as a partner because I would be like penniless on the street with my mentality and my thinking. And
I would not be exploring the places and having the experiences of my life without him.
So more and more over a time, like our trust is building in our relationship. So like when I get that whisper or that voice in my head that says, I got to go do this.
It doesn't freak me out quite as much as it used to.
I think the biggest like change in our life was, it's going to be in the book, of course, and we'll talk about that, but it's just that the security and comfort of like quitting a job that supported my wife and me and the benefits and everything, because I wasn't happy. I needed to find what makes me happy.
Can I back up a little bit more?
Yeah.
It's in the book, but so when I got better from all of my most of my illness stuff, he gave up before he gave up his career as a traditional animator to take care of me when I was sick. So he worked at UPS to do the job and get the health benefits. So then when I was better, I was able to work a full-time job. And then he was able to go out and be creative again because he's just a massively creative person. And so it's been a long transition. And then I think at one point we wanted to move to Australia.
Yes.
And
we didn't want to stand still. Like, you know, like that whole thing, I was just shedding that, going out on a leap of faith, trying something new, even though I have no idea what's lined up. And then so I craved more of that on the traveling side. And
then we decided not to move to Australia, and we moved to Florida instead, from Pennsylvania.
Because we rolled with the punches. There's things that happened like that were amazing things. Yeah. Like I owned a yo-yo company for 5 years.
Wow.
And then so once we moved to Florida, we had some friends from college that he was business partners with at that yo-yo company. They went full-time in an RV. And so we were watching them and we started researching probably about 7 to 8 years. We were researching different size rigs. Did we want a Class A or a travel trailer, fifth wheel? Like we did a lot of research and a lot of talking about that.
Right. The van wasn't in the picture. A 20-foot van. Like the idea is a 40-foot space. Like, you know.
That's where the crazy idea came from, was when he saw the van. So. And I'm like, wait, 72 square feet? What? This is I don't know about this.
But we also did a first road trip that was like car camping. And that whet our appetite. 2017.
That was one of his whispers that he's like, I don't know why, but we have to go on this road trip. And it took me about 2 months to be like, okay. And so we did 27 states in 8 weeks.
In a Honda Fit.
In a very tiny car.
Tinier.
Wow.
So then when we got back from that, I think we started learning about the vans, and then we built our own RV. So we had an empty cargo van and we built the whole thing because we like creating things.
That's very cool.
So I don't know if it was one or the other, but
the van was really a tool. It wasn't going to be the plan. I'm going to make it my home, because we've had multiple businesses and we're entrepreneurs. We tried so many different things, owned a coffee catering business, and that was our equipment being transported in that van. Little did we know that's going to be what we're calling home.
Our house. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're in a 33-foot Class C. I can't imagine being in a 20-foot van. But that is so cool. The fact that you guys literally made it your own, that you built it from scratch. We're getting ready to do a small renovation to our Class C here in the next couple of weeks. And I'm really excited about that. So I can't imagine what it would be like to just start with an empty shell and make everything your own. So that is very, very cool. So
there's one little quick thing too. We had talked about getting the van and we'd researched it, but we had just gotten back from another road trip with the Honda Fit, and it had turned 200,000 miles, and the clutch went, the AC went, like it just died basically.
It died on the parking lot. where the van was, or we're going to go.
We hobbled,
Look at
we barely made it to that dealership where I found the van online, and they knew we weren't leaving. We got it a lot faster than what we intended to. So like,
when you want something in life, it's not how you expect it to happen, and then maybe not at your time, but it is on, like, you know,
the right time.
The right time.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that completely. So tell me a little bit about the book. You know, the concept behind it. I mean, obviously it's your story, but it's unique in the fact that it's illustrated and written at the same time, which I find very unique and very cool. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the general idea is, like you said, it's our story. So it's a memoir. We're not like health coaches or trying to tell people what to do or how to do things. We just want to inspire and entertain.
Right.
And the story is a really difficult topic, but we wanted to tell it in a fun way to reach more people. Also, it's a two-sided book. So you flip it over and it's my side, and then you flip the other side and it's Joe's side. And so the end is actually in the middle. And my side is all written with a couple little illustrations in it, little spot ones. And his side is all illustrated with like kind of comic book style.
It's like sequential comic book frames, and also there's illustrations. So
and
it's
then
a combination.
And I helped him with the narration. So there's a little bit of written. So just as much illustration as I have on my side, he's got written on his side. So it's all about balance. It's called Happy Medium. And it's
she dragged me into it.
I'm like, I went through all this stuff for a reason. So I do want to help people with it, with the information that we did go through. But I experienced it differently than what he experienced. So it's
good to see that side-by-side comparison as we're doing this project too, comparing notes.
And we aligned the chapters. So like, you know, my chapter 1 and his chapter 1 are kind of backstories of who we are as individuals. And then as we go through each chapter, like if you want, you could read the book, you know, one side first and then go to the other side, or you could read chapter 1 and then go to his side in chapter 1 and then go back to my side, chapter 2, and his side, chapter 2.
As an example, I'll cite one of the parts of it was the situation where Amy's made multiple trips to the hospital, but this was when I started to really secure my job at UPS, and she's going in for surgery, but I'm worried that I'm going to lose my job if I take time off, if I just do anything. And she thought on her side that I was just kind of
he didn't understand the severity of the situation.
Right.
Wow, that's very cool. To be able to see that perspective in real time. I think that's something in life we don't do enough as, whether it's with our partner or whether it's just with, you know, our neighbors and our friends, is not really taking the time to understand their perspective. So I love that. That's awesome. So why do you feel it's important to, you know, through telling your story, to be able to help others that, you know, may be going through the same thing? Why did you feel that was important to do?
Because I got better. I didn't want people to struggle with the stigma of that you're stuck with this for your rest of your life. And also I've had so many doctors tell me like, oh, it's all in your head, or we can't find anything wrong with you. And because I was persistent, and because Joe believed in me that I could get better, because he felt that I was still in there somewhere, my original person he fell in love with.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the biggest things. And just, we wanted to show that support system of how important that was for me. But also to give people hope that we don't know, we might not even know or have the technology to heal things yet, but I just really believe that it's possible.
It's a great story to tell. And like I said, I'm along for the ride. I'm not one that I want to like, hey, look at me, look what we did. Like, now let's write about it. But the way things have gone, how we roll with things, like talking about that, is a publisher falls into your lap, you know, and then you just have this conversation, and she didn't know she was talking to the publisher. She just was authentically, genuinely by heart telling her story. And that's how that happened. It's like, well, now you got to do a book. And I'm like, oh, I guess we're going to be doing a book. It's not like I've got this great idea. I'm going to just do it. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to put it on Amazon. I'm just like, and I'm going to monetize it. I don't think that way. I just like, I want to live my life peacefully and happy, and just, I'm humble about learning everything too, and just keeping like things open and just going with the flow. And so through all relationships that we've made in the past, and as we keep going forward, this is how that has been created into telling that story in this like vehicle or like this medium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I think, that's one of the things for myself. I mean, I'm very introverted by nature. A lot of people don't believe me when I say that, because I do a podcast and I write books, and, my books are very vulnerable. So, how I saw you raise your hand when I said about being an introvert, Joe. So how tough was it to kind of expose that vulnerability? And again, especially I think as males, that's really difficult for us. So, how did you work through that process and say, look, man, I'm going to lay it out here?
Well, believe it or not, I thought I was an extrovert. I guess we all, as introverts, think we're actually extroverts, but it just kind of, it's really difficult for me even to go into this, like go back to the past, because like, I don't regret the past or anything. I'm just going back there because I can smell, taste the atmosphere, everything. Like I'm very vivid when it comes to remembering things. Like I remember like my life in the book. I talk about it when I was 4 years old, and I lived in South America for a year in Venezuela. But
you basically put all of that emotion and reliving all of that into his drawings. Like you feel it in his drawings.
Yeah, but I think more than anything, it's just like I am going through those like emotions and things, and I do talk to Amy a lot about it, and I let her know how I'm feeling. And a quiet space is definitely, for me, being an introvert, is the perfect atmosphere, especially like these campgrounds where everybody's dispersed they left the weekend, so the weekdays are open. And I just have the outside air, the quietness to just kind of, self-reflect, kind of thing like that.
He is really good. Like he was the PR person for our yo-yo company.
I don't even know how that happened.
When you put him in front of people or in front of a camera, he turns on and is just hysterical.
I'm the opposite of Mission J Frog. If you know who Mission J Frog is,
from Bugs Bunny.
Brothers from Bugs Bunny. The guy's like trying to make him dance and stuff like that. So yeah, like,
he's the opposite. When he turns on when he's supposed to.
Yeah,
but I've also learned that he needs this nature time. Like when he's at a show or we do something, I know that right afterwards we have to go to nature and ground him, and so it's just part of our learning process together.
But I step up when I have to step up. I mean, that's what I've learned is like, these situations, like things that come across, however it is, like, God, universe, George Lucas, the force, whatever spiritual that you are connected to, it's more like they're presented in your path, and you have to lift an arm, you have to speak, you have to talk, you have to do that. That's the opportunity that's given you at that window in some way that you've asked for, and you have to show up and be on point for it. So being an introvert, I still know that I'm like, oh, all right, I'll do it. I'll like, and then
Do you want a TV show? Sure.
It's like you're nodding your head like no, I don't want to do it, but like yes I do, and it's kind of like that. It's this struggle for me.
No, I can relate to that completely. And I think that's what's so misunderstood about introverts is that, when you get us in our element, people actually think like we're extroverted. Like if we were sitting at the campground with you guys, I can tell Joe and I, we would be talking all afternoon. Like you would have to, at the end of the night, you'd be like, dude, don't you have a camper to get back to? Like what, it's 11:30. I want to go to bed, get out of here, but like when you find your tribe, when you find your tribe and you find those like-minded people, that whole introvert thing just goes away because, you have a connection. And I think that's where people misunderstand us is that, we don't just, sit and, cuddle in the corner away from people. We'd like to do that sometimes.
But we're not the one that we walk in the room and everybody's like, Joe, or Dan, it's like, like that's, but
So I can completely relate to that without a doubt. I love that. So you kind of just let the cat out of the bag a little bit, Amy, in that last, so it's the segue into, in addition to, full-time nomading, sharing your life and your vulnerabilities through your blog and now a book. If that wasn't enough, now it's like, hey, let's do a TV show. Tell me a little bit about how that came about and what is it?
So same way we got basically our publisher, didn't plan on it, didn't expect it. People kept asking us to do a YouTube channel because of our experiences and crazy things that happened to us. And we didn't, actually one of the biggest things is we do random acts of kindness type of thing. And we didn't want to be those people that are like, look at me, I did this great thing.
Yeah,
and la, la, la.
Gave a sandwich to a homeless person. Check it out. Like, I'm on TikTok or Instagram. Like,
that's not what kindness is about.
Right.
And so we always said, if a camera crew follows us around, we'll do it. And then one of our friends is like, hey, there's a new network being launched. I think she wanted to travel nomad people. And I told them you would be the perfect one.
I just know the people for that. And then that's how
that relationship came out of other relationships of other businesses. Everything is connected. And it was just unbelievable. And so we had the first call with the owner of the network. And she got more than she bargained for, because she thought she was just getting van lifers, and she got all of our stories and craziness. And so the network is called Honest Network. It's kind of a cross between YouTube and Netflix. So the content creators get to own all of their content, unlike YouTube. And the monetization and stuff is a lot more robust. And Honest is spelled ONEST. And so they'll be launching soft launch on Roku and Fire Stick in July. And then the rolling out on Apple TV and their own streaming apps and stuff towards the end of this year. And so we actually kind of have two shows because of our book and the traveling. So she's like, I want as much of you as we can get. And we're like, okay. So this first episode actually happened this week, just by chance of weird events. It kind of thrusted us into this really good episode.
Yeah, I mean, and what we do is, like I said, it's like when I was talking about it in the last question is like, and I said that we live it instead of blogging it. I'm not focused so much on I've got to put this on camera, I got to do things, but I do document and record things in life. And apparently that kind of archive of just videoing stuff has some content and information to inspire people or do something. So that's where I'm showing up for that part of it. It's like, I just still want to be living and just being like, just being a nomad, traveling, being in the right place, right times. How can we serve people? Is it for us? Is it for them? Because it's just this constant flow of exchange, a cycle.
Yeah.
But I do like, with the first show, it's not how we expected the first show to start. And it's not like we're sitting down thinking, how do we going to do the show? What are we going to think? It's like, the show's going to happen.
A lot of it we're documenting just for ourselves too, because this is all of our travels and just remembering what we're doing and stuff like that. And as I was putting this first show together, or first episode, the show is called Just Roll With It. So just being in the right place at the right time, doing things, when your course has to get changed all of a sudden and you don't expect it, how do you handle the situation? So it's that kind of thing. And as I was putting this first episode together, the video footage of before I got bit by a raccoon actually was almost a premonition of what happened. And it was just unbelievable how it all came together. And none of this was planned. And all the footage is just coming together just incredibly.
Yeah. I just want to be
getting bit by the raccoon.
Yeah. It's not like, hey, there's a raccoon, put your finger over there and get bit by it,
No.
That'll make for good. That'll make for good TV, Amy. Stick your finger over there.
Oh my!
No, actually, when we went to the urgent care, the girls were there at the front desk. We're like, "Did you get it on video?" I was like, "No, I was a little busy screaming."
You should have put that on TikTok. I'm like,
no.
wow. This is what we come
So
to.
Joe drew a reenactment of it. So we got the
blend
picture.
my art skills somewhere and just, do something and blend that in. But I'm creative. I'm given this opportunity and I'm very grateful for it. And that's where I want to show up and, do what is needed. If that helps and that inspires people.
Yeah, no, I love that. Joe, for you specifically, when did you start drawing? When did, animation become part of your life? And at what point in your life did you say, wow, I can do this?
I still struggle with that because as an artist, we're our worst critic. It did start basically more coming out in my probably my freshman or sophomore year in high school. I actually have been diagnosed with a learning disability and I struggled a lot in my education.
He's creative. They didn't know how to teach him.
So academically, I didn't excel with the rest of the kids. They took away my electives and they placed them with remedial classes. So I really didn't have any artistic outlet. I didn't go to art classes and build that. But I just it was just one of those things. I love to draw and I doodle on my papers as well. My father would bring home these magazines from the grocery store that were on the rack, and they were called the Disney Adventure magazines. And I loved them so much that they thought I copied them. I just really just kind of looked at the picture and I drew as much as I can. And so it wasn't anything like that just kind of the high school prepared me to go to art school because I really didn't know I was going to go to art school too. I did get the support from my father and my mother, mostly my father, who saw my drawings and he thought that would be something good. Maybe he knew something about that I didn't know. And then when I got to art school, I was that's when Toy Story came out. So I was all over computer art, 3D animation. And then what I found is a traditional animation track. They call it traditional animation. And I was hooked on that, just drawing paper, fanning the papers and doing stuff like that. We don't do that anymore. We're called digital artists now because everything's on an iPad or they have the software and you can have layers and layers. So and we don't have more than 5 fingers. You can do that. But so I never put that down. I struggled though learning as much as, because a lot of that's not how my life was going to go. Like I said, the stories in the book, the distractions. When I met Amy,
we met in art school, in college.
That's where we met. And
so I got some art talent too.
I met her the second day at college, and she became a huge distraction for 4 years of my life.
But I helped,
right?
Because a couple of weeks ago, I made some emails and connections and got him. We got to sit down and have lunch with a former Disney animator.
Mm-hmm.
So he got some of the feedback that he'd been looking for many, many years from a seasoned Disney animator, which was amazing.
Yeah. So I'm really you're catching us now and me just kind of speeding up and trying to catching up the next, the 20 something years that I missed as an animator or drawing. So it's not over, but it just wasn't the time that it was supposed to be. That's what I had to realize.
You're just rolling with it.
Just rolling with it.
The name of our show.
But yeah, it was just, because of her health, I did have an animation job that might be a potential takeoff as a career, but I had to leave that to take care of things at home, family, and the things I did. So the security, the comfort is what kind of blanketed me for a while, but it couldn't cage me. That I was creative all the time. I'm thinking elsewhere, thinking ideas. So I would doodle a little bit, but my hitting this book and doing this book as a project has been a challenge for me because I criticize myself all the time working on it. It's not good enough, I tell myself. And it's I have to redraw and redraw, but I just have to get it out there and I have to start somewhere. Right. And there's kind of little jumps that I've been doing and just kind of putting myself out there. Over time, I could see from the beginning when I started, I'm I've gotten better. So, I feel good about that.
So I know I've been dragging him along on this project, but for him to complete this is going to be a huge step and a huge
I'll feel like $1 million
accomplishment for him. So
yeah.
See, I'm helping you. I'm helping you grow.
And that's where I love it though. I love the passion of it. That's where my flow is. That's what just kind of, just gets me all happy and excited. And if I can produce something for people that inspires them, that's going to be even on a greater level, when you see that.
Yeah, I love that. And
sorry, that
Amy,
was long-winded.
Not a problem at all. And Amy, you're an artist as well, but your part of the book is written, and from what I can tell on the website, most of the blogs are written by you. So how did writing become a part of your life? And, when did you realize, wow, I can actually tell a story pretty good through writing?
I used to be very nervous about public speaking and being on videos and cameras and stuff like that. I've definitely grown and learned from a lot of our experiences. So I started more writing, but I never thought of myself as a writer either. So it was more of just kind of documenting the stories and experiences because I needed to get that emotion out. So I was talking about health challenges and stuff. I was diagnosed with bipolar when I was about 24, I think. And so there was just a lot of inner turmoil in my mind. And one of the techniques I used would be journaling and just having a book by the bed so that I could get my thoughts out, so that I could try to relax my mind. So it's kind of evolved from there, of just getting my thoughts out and documenting how I'm feeling about certain things. And then when we talked about doing the book, I mean, we've talked about doing the book at least 12 years, but it was all more of a comic book style. And then I don't remember where it evolved into this current position now, but
you're good.
Just nature. I'm a little jumpy from nature. Sorry. That was a giant ant.
Raccoon.
No, it wasn't a raccoon, but it was almost as big. But anyway, so yeah, I think the writing came out of me being a little nervous in front of cameras, and now we're doing a show, just like Joe said. But I just communicate better in written form.
I think also a lot of your corporate experience has helped you a lot too, as a technical fashion designer.
Yeah.
She had to communicate with factories overseas, and it's constant email, talking and connecting and getting the instructions. And so I lend it to that as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. My technical ability, it's basically a technical fashion designer is like an engineer of fashion. So I would do all sorts of fit comments and had to communicate very clearly about how to make the garment properly. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. Also
and I ended up being the one working for Disney. I did all of I worked on.
I got you.
That's true. Your yo-yo business got me into Disney. But I worked on all of the operational costumes or the uniforms for everybody that works in the Shanghai Disney Resort in China.
Wow, that's pretty
when that park opens. Yeah.
You don't get credit for it though.
No, my name's not on anything. Well, barely anything. So
that's still pretty cool. Do you find it therapeutic when you're writing? Because I know for me personally, I absolutely find it therapeutic.
I think so. Yeah. And I think at this point now it's I don't want to forget the feelings and the incredible experiences or conversations that we have with people. Like yesterday, we were talking to the lady next to us, and I was like, "Hang on a second, I got to write this down," because there's just so many amazing things that happen to us, and I feel like I need to document it.
Yeah.
Myself even.
And I agree, and that's part of why I blog as well. I mean, it's not about us gaining this huge following, but again, if somebody out there can read something that I've written through our travels and can be inspired by it and understand that, you don't have to live, this type of life that society says you have to live, and we don't have to be in these boxes that society puts us in. So if there's somebody out there, wondering if it's a lifestyle for them, it's like, yeah, it is. It's a lifestyle for anyone. You just have to have, the guts to take that and to do it. So I
didn't want people to feel alone, because I had real bad anxiety and stuff. And I felt so alone back when I was in the really darkest times. And I don't want people to feel alone. Like there's people that understand, they've gone through it. Even though everybody's situation is slightly different, there's commonality, and just knowing you're not by yourself and you're not alone in your experiences or your thoughts. It just helps soothe and maybe gives person the hope that they can go a little longer and try a little something, get a little more courage to try something.
It's your superpower, I think.
Yeah.
It's like your mental awareness for, people who have like mental challenges and things. Now, I'll still never understand it. I've experienced it and seen it through, but I can never say, oh, I know what you're talking about. But you have a way of just kind of help guiding or directing that in a way, but not coaching it. Just
right. Like I understand what triggers certain things that are triggers. Like when a giant ant comes out and makes me jump because I've been bitten by a raccoon. There's triggers, and there's slight little, somebody could say one little comment and it could destroy a person for the whole day or even a year. And you have no idea that you triggered that on somebody. And so if I can trigger happiness or hope or joy or just make somebody smile for that day, I want to use my superpower for that.
Yeah, I love that. We're just about out of time, but
yep.
I get to my final question. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you guys want to talk about?
I think these are great questions. I think we covered a lot. Yeah, like just in the small amount of time. So thank you. Yeah, let's roll with
the little things is just being kind. And that's one of our biggest things with rolling around and meeting people and talking to people. Just I want to be the reason someone smiles that day. Just kindness. We need so much more kindness and joy and happiness. So if we can be that light for people, with the way the world is right now, with all the diversity and hate and pain and all of that, we need more people to smile and get through a little farther, because we can rebuild and have a bright future.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. And actually, it made me think of one more question before I get to my final one. Because I know for Sandy and I, this is something that really exceeded our expectations, was when you talk about kindness and, just being nice to people and smiling, is the RV community in and of itself is been one of the most special communities it's the most special community we've ever been a part of. And we were very much involved in our community here at home. Can you guys elaborate on that as well? Do you agree that it's hard to put into words what that community is like? It's just so helpful, so grateful, so giving. Tell me your experience with that real quick.
So the RV community and the full-time travelers, that community in itself is huge. We have a little twist on it because we are self-built. We've done tiny home shows. And so like the schoolie conversions and the school buses and the vans, and all box trucks and ambulances, like all of those people too, were lumping in this community. We had some friends that we had just gotten out of a tiny home festival, and we were going to turn left to see our friend at the Walmart. And we looked over to the right and we saw one of the school buses that we had just met. Actually city bus, excuse me. And we saw the flap open and they were having some trouble. And so we drove turned to the right, and we gave them a jump. And we stuck with them actually for over 24 hours to make sure that they could get the help, and made for some really fun adventures. But the fact that we all just immediately help each other and do what we can, even if it's just sitting with them until they figure out how to handle the situation. Right. We played cards with them and just stuck with them, and they kept like, don't you have to be somewhere? We're like, no.
Your timing is definitely different. Your timing is, you can be there at the place to, help and serve. It's not so much you're in the rush. You have to get back to the house. Your house is with you all the time. And a lot of times it's like a Swiss Army knife. It has everything that you possibly need to help someone, or someone has something for you.
Yep.
So like you have electricians, welders, like people who are
somebody help
mechanics
us fix our leaky sink.
Yep, exactly. So, and it's really cool because they're on the other side of the country, but they feel like they're your next door neighbor.
Absolutely.
And just to be able to help each other. You're traveling alone, but you're never alone.
Yeah, Yeah, that's so true. You get to see their adventures, they're sharing with your adventures. And again, that helping, we did a volunteer project in Louisiana back in the spring. And right before we got there, the morning that we were getting to the project, our water pump went out. And and we were in a situation where we were boondocking the whole time. We had no hookups, nothing. So, not having the water pump was a big deal. And we roll in there, and right away I tell Phil, who's the organizer of A Year to Volunteer, which is who we volunteer with, like, hey man, my water pump went out. I don't know what to do, because I'm not a hand. Like I tell everybody, I'm like the least handy full-time RVer in the world. But like right away, man, everybody. We had a guy who was an RV tech there. We just happened to have another guy who had a spare water pump in his RV. So,
Oh, wow.
we used that, and then all I had to do is order the same model on Amazon to, get it back to him before we left the project. And like, and then, another guy, literally he didn't change the water pump for me. He showed me how to change it, which was, I was incredibly grateful for. He's like, here, we're going to, unscrew this, take it apart. And, if you had ever told me I'm going to be changing a water pump in my RV, I'd have told you, look, man, I know what you're on right now, but there's something missing there. But it was so cool. And yeah, that community is just so absolutely incredible, without a doubt. So, and it is, for people that don't experience it, it's tough for us to put it into words, how giving that community is, and how grateful they are, and just how amazing they are. So where can people find you guys? What's the website? How can there's a pre-order going on for the book right now. How do they find that? Let people know how they can connect with you guys.
He's looking at me because
She built the website, so we'll let her speak.
Yeah. So rollingrogans.com is the main easy spot to find everything. And we are on Instagram and Facebook as Rolling Rogans. Pretty much if you Google Rolling Rogans, we got all of that. And then our pre-order for our book is publishizer.com. So Publishizer. I do that out of my head. I usually look at it. So anyways, publishizer.com and /happy-medium. So the name of the book. But if you just go to the live campaigns going on, we're the top one.
So are all the links on our homepage then? Okay.
Yeah. So. And then for the TV show, because it's not fully launched yet, just go to honestnetwork.com, ONEST.com. And then they're also on Instagram and stuff too, so you can start checking out and following them. And so when you can get the alerts for when the shows go live.
Cool.
I think those are the main ones.
It will be like on Roku.
Yeah, Roku, Apple TV and stuff later. But Instagram is one of the most active. Twitter, the Honest Network for them to get alerts.
Cool. So as you guys know, the subtitle of the podcast is Many Little People in Many Little Places, which comes from the opening lyrics of a Michael Franti song, Gloria, which go, when many little people in many little places do many little things and the whole world changes. And by the time we get to this point of the podcast, you guys have answered it like 6 times over. But to kind of just put it in a nugget, what are some of the little things that you guys do on a daily basis to make the world a little bit better place? And you can decide who wants to answer it first.
I'll go first. Go. Be the reason someone smiles today. Definitely it's one of my big hashtags that I like to do. And just kindness. Just doing little kind things, having a conversation, listening. When I was bipolar, I had the worst time listening to people. I just talked so fast, so much, and my mind was racing so much that being able to listen now and be quiet for somebody else, because sometimes they don't want advice. They just need somebody to listen and empathize.
And mine is in a couple words or sentences, like in a sentence is like, talk to strangers. Mm-hmm. We've been so conditioned in their past to not talk to strangers. Mm-hmm. There's a reason for the safety and stuff like that, but it's also been ingrained in us now that the person that's 3 feet in front of us, like, we don't open our mouth and we don't speak. So move your feet, open your mouth. And me being an introvert, that's really hard to do, but you don't have to overthink it. All you need to do is just say hello, because you never know what that opportunity will open up to you.
I think we assume people are nice and good, and then when they show, if they're not, then we know, we're aware, and we can read it very quickly. But just going in and assuming people are good.
As people, if we look at people, from appearance or just seeing from the outside, we like to tell a story about that person without even knowing.
Right.
So, and that's always not true. Sometimes it is, but like I said,
and we're cautious,
strangers.
but just learning people's stories.
I love that. I love both those answers. Guys, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to me and be on the podcast. I can't wait until we get to actually meet face to face on the road, and I know we will for sure.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to following your adventures. But this was a blast. And for my listeners out there, be sure to check out my other podcasts at danclouser.com, as well as my blogs. Head on over to Amazon to pick up the most recent book, The Journey of My Mother's Son, Volume 1, and head on over and get a pre-order for the Rolling Rogans book, because as you can tell, it's not going to disappoint at all. So again, guys, I thank you so much for taking the time and joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving us the platform and sharing our stories.
We appreciate it.
Bet.